Good evening, good afternoon to those joining from around the world. I am speaking with Angela Richardson-Mook, who is the CEO and founder of Alcea Surrogacy. And we are going to be talking today all about the accessible, inclusive, and supportive ways in which people can pursue their surrogacy journey. So let me just see whether she's here and then we can go live. All about accessibility and inclusivity when it comes to surrogacy with the agency who do things differently. So just going to try and connect Angela again. Hopefully tech will be on our side. Welcome, nice to see those who are joining. Hello,
Hi.
Angela.
Hello, good to see you.
You too, and you obviously recently came to visit us in London. I'm coming to see you in New York next week. Very excited to speak to you today, all around accessibility, inclusivity, and the support that you guys offer at Alcea Surrogacy. And we've got some great questions. So please start by introducing yourself.
I am Angela Richardson-Mook, and I am a six-time surrogate, two-time donor, and mother via IVF. And I founded Alcea Surrogacy, and I currently act as the company's CEO.
Amazing. When you were over in London, it was absolutely fascinating recording a podcast with you, hearing all about your personal journey and what led you to found Alcea Surrogacy, and misconceptions that come with being a surrogate, how you can change someone's life, just so many things that I had never really known from not having explored surrogacy or been a surrogate myself. So yeah, excited to hear more. Um, could you explain to us Alcea Surrogacy's model and who is it for?
Yeah, absolutely. So when my team and I really began to business plan and think about offering a decidedly different
Yeah.
experience for intended parents and surrogate both, one of the things that all of our collective knowledge really brought to light was the number of people that felt like the barrier to entry at an agency was so very high for intended
Mm-hmm.
parents. And so, a lot of agencies make distinctions around number of embryos, tested embryos. Most require a pretty hefty upfront fee to sit on a waiting list for a very elongated amount of time. And if you think about the average client that is seeking out surrogacy, it's someone that has been both emotionally taxed as well as financially strapped to pursue
Mm-hmm.
a family.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you're a queer person who knew you were always going to need to use a surrogate, or someone that came to using a surrogate by years of infertility, people are ready to get their family started.
Yeah.
And so at the time when Alcea was very first coming into the industry, there were actually very few agencies that offered an agency waiting list that didn't require a deposit and didn't require many, many, many months of waiting. And as I began to really dig in and look at how we could offer the most ethical and transparent experience for everyone, I knew what it was like to be a surrogate, right? I think between myself and my partner in the business, we've been a surrogate 10 times. We've been
Incredible.
pregnant collectively 17 times.
Wow.
So we know that. We know what surrogates need. Our team is built from formal surrogates. But I really wanted to lean into that intended parent experience and understand how we can make an already yucky process not as yucky for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so our model really is there for people that are ready to get their family started. And so we've kept our barrier to entry low insofar as we're going to have you come into our pipeline and we're going to focus incredibly intrinsically on matching criteria. What are you looking for in your surrogate? And then we're going to match you in relatively short amount of time, around 90 days or less. And it's a model that prioritizes the intended parent experience. And we really accomplish that by simply limiting the number of intended parents that we work with versus another agency strategy by taking anyone and everyone that will sign on that dotted line, that will pay that deposit. And for us, we want to earn our intended parents business, right? If you've given me money and you're sitting on a list, we've already made that transaction happen. We're going to find you a surrogate. In our model, we are forced to deliver the best and brightest, the person that you were really wanting and seeing yourself partnering with, because until we've done that, we've not collected money, we've not signed a contract. So at that point, we really have to ensure that the intended parents are being valued and listened to. And as a result, the surrogate gets someone that they match with so cohesively because we're doing that intentional understanding of what you're looking for on both sides. But what we're doing is making sure that the intended parent has a lower threshold to really get started on something after this long and laborious road that they've been on to even get to that first discussion with Alcea Surrogacy and team.
Which is why it makes it so much more accessible, because this is for people. Why would someone not take these first steps to pursue it and find out more and see what this matching process might be like, and get a bit further into that family building journey, to see what options are. I like the way that you said what is like a difficult, icky process. I mean, no one wakes up and wants to have IVF or
Absolutely.
use donor conception or
I
use
always
surrogacy.
I always
It's not like a dream.
Right. I always tell our intended parents that I know no one really wants to pick up the phone and make that first call. It's not anyone's plan necessarily, but more importantly, it's really the most intimate thing that you're ever going to do outside maybe your partnership if you are a partnered individual. But you are opening up so much of your heart, mind, and spirit to another person and frankly, other people. You know, pregnancy is already complicated enough. You throw in an IVF doctor and a surrogate's partner and her
Yeah.
family and attorneys and all of this process. And I believe that we not only owe it to, we are obligated to offer intended parents an experience that makes them feel valued and empowered and not just like a deposit on a list. I feel like that really
Yeah.
discounts the intimacy of this process.
100%. Why do you, but this is a great question. Why do you believe the wait times are much longer with other agencies who do charge an upfront fee?
So I mean, I think that's a complicated answer, but I think most generally speaking, if you think about it from a business perspective, it's a better business model for the person doing business,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they can take as many intended parents as are interested in their program. They can earn interest off that deposit, and they can really control how they match. And it's a little bit easier for them because they've secured
Yeah.
that client before they've really done any work.
Yeah.
But I think secondarily, this industry, that was the standard for decades, right? I delivered my first child as a surrogate all the way back in 2007, showing my age. And I worked with three of the largest agencies here in the United States. All
Mhm.
of them still have that model today. And so if you think about it in 20 years, there's been no evolution. But this is incredibly expensive and it's an exercise in trust. And I think that some of the old gold standard way of doing things, as well as the ones that offer that model, often have really big budgets that might be backed by private equity. There's a combination of things that make that messaging feel advantageous to intended parents through the preying on the need for a security, for a long-standing agency, for this is how it's been done. And that's why I'm really proud that Alcea has been a bit of a disruptor. And that was really something that, a staggered agency fee where you kind of pay by milestone, no fee to get on the list. Those were
Yeah.
relatively new concepts 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And now I see more and more people adopting them because it is the right thing to do by the client.
But also, if I was looking for surrogacy, what I would also find attractive is the fact that you are, making the decisions with LCS surrogacy. You are behind the driver's seat. You have been a surrogate yourself. You've lived the process many times, so you know what you wanted being a surrogate, and you know what it's like for the intended parent as well.
Correct. And I think we're really very fortunate as well to have several intended parents on our team. One of the methodologies of Alcea that's very different than other agencies is the way that we use our journey support team.
Yeah.
Most all agencies are staffed by previous surrogates, right? That's logical and that makes sense. We have a great team of experienced surrogates that support our gestational carriers through the process, but we actually have a split case management team. So our intended parents have either a former intended parent or someone that's worked professionally in their career with intended parents, maybe at a legal office or IVF clinic, and they have the ability to lean on a source that understands exactly where they've been and what they've been through. I learned very, very early on that being a surrogate does not give me all of the right perspectives for intended parents. That's why I leaned in so heavily to this role. I talk to every intended parent that comes through the door, and I have for the last 6 years, and I'll continue to do so. I think it's important that they also have the ability to have the support just like the surrogate, and then they can come together on collective activities that make sense. But I think, again, it's a matter of just having a team of people that can collectively support both sides neutrally, equitably, and transparently.
And I've met quite a few of your wonderful team. Tell us a little bit more about, you know, how these personal experiences have molded Alcea.
Yeah, I mean, I think, especially before social media, surrogates had a relatively limited medium for outlet when it came to discussing concerns
Mhm.
or questions. And so we only had the agency that we signed up with passing along and giving us education. And of course, that's the education that's going to come from the lens of the way that that particular agency does business. Now that we've got this really strong ability to connect, myself and then my very first employee, Christy, is someone I've known, also a surrogate, you know, many, many years ago. We really leaned into what about your agency experience wasn't the best? What did you, what holes could be closed? What gaps could be filled? And collectively, as we grew, we handpicked person after person that resonated our ethos, resonated that message. And I believe good core teams will attract good core talent. And I'm really proud of the fact that our team has had longevity. Every single person on our team has an enormous amount of experience. And we can all offer a really unique perspective to really give an inclusive approach. Our team is incredibly diverse in the fact that we've got, you know, a lot of different ethnicities on our team, and that's an intentional
Yeah.
approach. You know, 50% of our clients, whether they're surrogates or intended parents, are not white people. I am a white woman, and I owe all of our clients the perspective that is embodied by them. And having a diverse team is really important to me in the Alcea mission. And I think that is something that we've done really organically and really well to offer a really curated experience for those that might not always see themselves in some of the others, you know, advertising and strategies when it looks to, you know, finding clients and surrogates. It's a little bit vanilla, and I like that we have an ability to see outside ourselves and our own identities in that way.
Also, what I have noticed from getting to know your team is the empowerment, the approach you take when it comes to looking after the surrogate as well as the intended parent. Tell us a little bit more about that, having been a surrogate yourself so many times.
Yeah, I mean, our program initially was built around the surrogate, and we have a very robust screening process. And I think that might be a bit overwhelming sometimes when people are applying, because I think we do probably 2 times the amount of screening that some other agencies do, and we do that all before match. And so I think that sometimes that barrier feels a little bit heavy to surrogates, but I think once we explain to them that that's really to protect them. Ultimately, a candidate to be a surrogate has to be a mother, right? They have to be a parent. That's the you know, surrogacy 101. You have to have delivered safely previously. And so that means that you've got other people in your life outside of surrogacy counting on you. And we owe it to you to offer you a safe pregnancy experience. And so we really do a diligent job on making sure that both mentally and physically, these surrogates that are moving forward in our program are well equipped to understand how difficult this journey can be and how sometimes those difficulties might at times fall on their shoulders.
Mhm.
You know, even when it's not your baby, going through a loss or a termination or transfer after transfer with a lot of medications, that's hard. It's hard on someone mentally and physically, and we recognize that. In addition, the way our program is built is to really kind of equalize the playing field for all surrogates. And what I mean by that is, our surrogates are matching with intended parents that have a vastly different economic background, right? Some don't have a ton of limitations economically, but a larger chunk have limitations because before surrogacy, most of them have already been on a long financial road. And they would love to, you know, they think their surrogate hung the moon and they would love to do a lot of little nice things for them, but it might just be not be in the budget for
Yeah.
them. And so in our program, you know, we get the monthly butt box, we get the help at home care, we get the postpartum focus. All of that is included in the intended parents agency fee as a way to ensure that no matter who you are and who you are matched with, you're feeling valued and empowered, and you're getting a little bit extra every month in ways to know that we are so appreciative of you taking this journey to help expand a
It's
family.
amazing.
Yeah, and I also postpartum care, right? We do a really good job.
Yeah.
When RN on staff, we make sure that we, I know what it's like to, you know, be watched like a tea kettle at the end, right? When are you going to deliver? Everyone's excited. It's a lot of communication, a lot of activity, and then the baby is born, and rightfully so, the journey concludes for the surrogate, and the intended parents journey is really just starting. They're just now getting to know their new baby, they're becoming a family. And sometimes people around you in your life as the surrogate don't really know exactly how to handle you because you don't have a baby, but you're still recovering mentally and physically. And I think all of our team of surrogates have a really good perspective in being able to kind of help the surrogate see the forest through the trees in those initial moments of emotional time, and really support them from their application through that postpartum period. We're not here to match you and then disappear like we heard a lot of other agencies did in the past.
That's really amazing because, like you just said, the postpartum period is really difficult, having just been through it myself again. Hormonally, you're still bleeding, let's
Right.
face it, for many weeks. But then if you don't have a physical child that's yours, that you're, um, parenting at the end of it, it must be difficult to know sort of how to act and for
Exactly.
people to
And
know how
people
to
around
treat
you,
you.
no one really understands surrogacy, right? It's not a topic you can typically talk about with the majority of the population around you. And so, in my experience, people just didn't talk about it, which also felt different to me. So, it's one of those things that I think the complex and very intimate emotions of this process can really be fielded more appropriately by a team of people that have done this before on both the intended parent and the surrogate side. And I wanted to create a team that could handle all aspects from that journey end to end from every perspective to ensure that everybody could feel supported through the Alcea model.
And I presume also for people to understand what to say when people would ask questions. I presume that you might have people who sort of didn't know what to say once you'd said, I've just been a surrogate,
Yeah,
and almost just ended the conversation abruptly there.
yeah,
Same with
absolutely.
fertility struggles.
Yes. And I think also intended parents are often very guarded about the personal reasons that they're seeking out
Hmm.
surrogacy. And I think they even struggle a bit to understand how to connect with the surrogate. The amount of gratitude that we get when a baby's born, it reminds me on a daily basis of the things that the reasons that we do what we do. And, of course, the intended parents are so excited over their baby and this family. And some of them have had such tremendous heartache that this is the closure to a long and painful story. But I think what we are often remiss in talking about is the life changing messages that we get from surrogates. I'm on this call today and I live in New York City and I work in this field because I was a surrogate.
Hmm.
It offered me so many outlets in life that I wouldn't have had access and opportunity to before. And that is the exact kind of messaging we get from the surrogate. Thank you for, allowing me a bit of a buffer in my finances to take the leap to live in a better school district. That changed my children's life. I was drowning in student loan debt, and the compensation helped me to pursue my dreams. I never thought I was going to be able to buy a home, and now my compensation allowed for that for me and my family. This is life changing. And I think because the monetary reasons that surrogacy are often the life changing kind of culprit, they're kind of dismissed or considered, we don't talk about it, it's the elephant in the room. But I believe that's the complete wrong approach. At the end of the day, surrogacy does involve the transactional attitude of money. It is, you're never going to escape it. Even an altruistic surrogate still has to have her medical bills paid and her food covered. But at the end of the day, those transactions or the things that are done can often change a surrogate's life in a way that I don't think intended parents often can even wrap their brain around. And so I think ultimately Alcea's mission in offering this equalized and transparent and frankly equitable approach in being neutral and supportive allows for everybody to have a better understanding of both sides, and allows us to move forward in the most ethical way possible.
Someone's just said surrogacy literally changed my life. And if you were to give like a call to action for other people, about accessibility and support for intended parents, what would that be?
Um, I think for me, that answer would be twofold because I'm actually asked that quite a bit on intended parent consults. Like, what can I do to be the best intended parent, or what is my call to action here? And I think for intended parents, my call to action is always keep an open mind. And what I mean by that is sometimes we get really caught up in all of these little details and all of the trauma and all the things that have brought us to surrogacy. And it forces us to kind of keep our decision making in this very myopic kind of circle. And when it comes to picking your surrogate partner, what you're looking for is someone that's a good communicator, someone that you can see yourself working with in this journey. But
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to meet your best friend. And I think that sometimes we kind of idealize this process to think that if I don't walk away with this super strong, friendship like relationship, something didn't work. And I find that that's absolutely 100% not the
Hmm.
case. I think that a good supportive partner in this and keeping an open mind about who it is that you can see yourself working with. And that's not necessarily someone that you could see yourself being friends with. Those are two very different
Yeah.
conversations. What kind of communicator are you? How can you solve conflict? How do you solve conflict? Are you a type A or a type B person? Think about those things versus, what kinds of things you want to go chit chat at lunch on Friday. I think that sometimes we lose sight of the real mission. And I think on the surrogate side, the biggest call to action I always have is remembering that that pregnancy was easy for you, but it wasn't easy for the person that you're partnering with. And
Yeah.
to sometimes remember that in the way that you live your life, in the words that you say, that it might seem very simple to you, but to someone that has lost two babies, in the third trimester, or someone that has had an enormous amount of grief and challenge, that every single thing that you do or say could have an impact on their entire day because they feel that heaviness of this experience. And so to remember that it's easy for you, but it wasn't easy for them. And that's why you're an amazing surrogate.
That is such a good piece of advice, because also I guess you would probably need to remind surrogates on that piece that whilst it might seem like, I don't know, an over the top question, it's probably coming from a place of heartache and fear
Absolutely.
and, having experienced loss or whatever it might have been to get to this road. And that's why emotions must be so heightened.
Every single person that comes to surrogacy, even if they've not experienced a pregnancy before, has had to deal with some emotional um, extenuating circumstance to get here, right? Even a queer person who would much rather not be using IVF and not be using a surrogate, they are forced into this. That doesn't mean that it didn't take them a lot of time to process that, to come to terms with giving up and surrendering that control. In addition, especially queer men couples, they don't know a lot about pregnancy often, right? Especially if they didn't have sisters or moms or weren't exposed to that. And so they're really looking for you to be their source of truth in anything and everything pregnancy. And that's a huge responsibility. And on the flip of that, people that have experienced a pregnancy and have had, maybe they couldn't get pregnant and they tried and tried, or maybe they could get pregnant but couldn't stay pregnant. The emotional waiting for the other shoe to drop is real because that's all they've experienced. And so we have I don't think it's even a choice. We have a mandate as surrogates to be remembering that perspective and to remember that we owe it to our intended parents to be the best partner by acknowledging what brings them to this very difficult situation.
We speak to people in our community time and time again who are literally holding their breath through each
Absolutely.
trimester, like every milestone, don't want to have a baby shower or acknowledge anything until the baby is there safely in their arms.
Yeah. Mira, who is our matchmaker, she's our match coordinator. She's a former intended parent. And I'll never forget that she said to me, I didn't believe, even when I'm driving to the hospital with my surrogate in labor, I didn't believe I was going to walk out of there with a baby. She said I could not wrap my brain around it.
Mm.
And that was just, that was so powerful to me. And I can remember my last set of intended parents. And I believe that, my intended mother was similar in that she just couldn't believe that this was actually happening. And I remember when she held her baby for the first time and her face morphed into a new person. It was
Wow.
years of stress and hard feelings and anger and frustration and resentment towards everything because all she wanted to be a mom melted away. But up until that moment, she was waiting for that other shoe to drop. And that's powerful. And it's a big responsibility. And surrogates and intended parents alike have to recognize the duplicity of this role. It's amazing, but incredibly difficult. And so recognizing that, I think, allows us all to come together collectively in a more cohesive way.
Oh, it's so emotional, and it's so amazing to be doing something that does change lives like this. Do you at Alcea Surrogacy, do you accept all intended parents?
I mean, we accept all prepared intended parents. This is what I mean by that. I am a firm believer that agencies have a personality. There are certain attributes about the way that we market ourselves, about our ethos, about our strategy. And intended parents owe it to themselves to interview different agencies to understand their personality. It's not always the best fit. And sometimes that's not just on our side, it's on, the intended parent side. I've had intended parents express to us things in pre-match that really don't align with the type of surrogates that we attract. And we're not here to waste people's time and show them profiles of people that they couldn't see themselves working with.
Mm-hmm.
So do we say no? No. I mean, we don't say no out of the gate. We accept, if your clinic is facilitating the IVF process for you to make embryos, then we will accept you into our program holistically. And then it's a matter of really digging into the nuance and the intentional understanding of what they're looking for, not only in our support partner, but also in their partnership with the surrogate. And there are times when that ethos just doesn't align or there's a mismatch of values, from things like religion and termination and kind of stances that we take.
Yeah.
Those are very important. And I wouldn't want someone to compromise any of that. And our team certainly isn't going to compromise that. And so our answer is yes, but that comes with the caveat of making sure that it is the best fit for everyone, because at Alcea, we're hands-on. You're going to have to talk to us a lot. And I want that to be a feeling of, I don't want you to think, oh, the agency's calling. There's already enough there are already enough things in this journey to cause complications and that feeling in your gut. I don't want the agency to be a part of that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And if anyone has any questions for Angela whilst we're speaking, please do ask. You mentioned inclusivity earlier, which I love. How do you ensure that all communities, regardless of race or background, have equal access to your services?
So I think, in a very elementary way, it starts with the way that we have always marketed ourselves. One of the things that Christy and I saw very, very early on was that if you go to surrogacy websites, it's often always curated white women. And when I say curated, we're talking, slender women that are traditional and aesthetic. I'm a woman that has tattoos. Someone that has my nose pierced. We've got a variety of different kinds of aesthetics and looks on our team. And I love that we offer everyone a safe space and home, because you can look at our employees and see that we live our mission, and our mission is to offer an inclusive approach to this. And so you're going to see a wide swath of the way we look, the way that we think, and that's intentional. And I think just having that allows us to offer a different experience. I mean, I know about that in my own life, and just having, as I age, I notice more and more companies that really pay attention to the fact that not all women are 25.
Yeah.
And that's a new approach. I can, back when I was coming of age, you never saw someone outside that mold. And surrogacy is no different than how we live our life every single day. So I think just letting people know that we're here to recognize those things. But in addition, not all intended parents are white either. And so when we offer these support structures for surrogates that are a diverse group of people, that means intended parents have a diverse group of people to choose from in their surrogate partner. And there are nuances of culture and ethnicity that we recognize internally and understand and speak about them in our pre-match consultations. And if they're important to you, we're going to find that surrogate. And I think those are conversations that some agencies, kind of stray away from. They shy away from. And I believe that leaning into them is the better approach. And so I think our way of combining those resources allows for everyone to be welcome with the Alcea team.
This is exactly why someone on here chose what drew them to Alcea. So it's so refreshing to hear. And having met you all, I can see why that is so attractive. And in terms of support for surrogates and intended parents, anything else you want to highlight about the process or the journey from both sides?
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, we have a split case management team, which allows for more bandwidth, whereas most agencies have 25 matches. That's 50 people that someone's looking after. And our team, that's just 25 other intended parents or 25 surrogates. And so you can really have that really deep level of focus. But even more so than that, we've got other levels of expertise on our team that I think are enormously helpful for intended parents. Our social worker is PhD psychotherapist. She does all of our match meetings. She's always there for anything and everything that's escalated, or sometimes just to have a vent session, a safe space. I think that is really unique and something that is incredibly important to our mission. Having our clinic coordination team, we know that there are kind of ebbs and flows in this process, and we want the most and the most intricate as well as the most educated support that we can during those times of ebbs and flows. So when intended parents and carriers are cycling, we've got the clinic coordinator to really have their hands, dirty in that, looking at their appointments, talking to them about their medications, making sure we know who's paying for monitoring, all of those little things. And when that moves into pre-birth, we've got the legal administration team that's really looking at all of those, providing all of the things to the individual attorneys to make sure things are moving smoothly. But we've got the little levels of expertise internally to make sure that our neutral approach, by not having in-house legal or in-house escrow, still feels seamless to the client, because our team is the one coordinating. We're just not the responsible people insofar as you've got your neutral attorney and your surrogate has their neutral attorney, which we all agree is the ethical approach, but can sometimes feel a bit disjointed. I think the way that we've built the program allows for us to close that disjointed nature and make it feel seamless to everyone, both surrogate and intended parent.
Love that. And in terms of 2025, what are you looking forward to as an agency? What are in your plans to continue disrupting, reshaping? What's happening for the world of surrogacy that people should be aware of?
Well, we are continued this year to expand our international program. In the very beginning, we really wanted to stick to what we knew, and we know domestic surrogacy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as we've learned and began to partner with new people, we just started to dip our toes into that water this year, and we've grown that program quite successfully, and we'll continue to do that next year. We've got a lot of exciting things from the marketing side. We are relaunching our co-op program, which is a way for anyone and everyone, whether you've been an Alcea surrogacy or not, an Alcea surrogate or not, to get involved in the surrogacy community. We are going to launch a podcast, and we're really looking to also begin to be a little bit more transparent about the things that we're doing in the community. Alcea does a ton of discount work, and we partner with
Wow.
a lot of different charities.
Yeah.
And we do that because we know it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And we're going to do a much more robust job of ensuring that those partners and nonprofits that we're partnering with get the benefit of us being a little bit more public about that, so they can get help from others in our community so that they can continue doing the amazing work that they do.
That's incredible. We can't wait to see and hear more about it. Equally, coming to visit us across the pond, spreading that awareness piece, educating, um, getting involved with clinics over here as well as in the US and around the world is instrumental to helping people on a global level, right?
Absolutely. And we know that outside the United States, and even, there's a little bit of expense compensated surrogacy in both Canada and the UK. But as far as ethical compensated surrogacy, United States is going to continue to be the option for intended parents. And so we want to ensure that we've ingratiated ourselves into the communities that we are serving in the UK and other places, so that they know we have their back. We are understanding that we have a deep and resounded knowledge of their processes and the way that they do things, because there's different attitudes and way of managing
Yeah.
things. And so it's our job to meet the client where they are and not the other way around. And we'll continue to do that into next year.
Well, I would urge anyone watching this back or live, whether you're looking for a full service surrogacy agency, some support to have that initial conversation, wherever you are, please do head to our link in bio. We've linked up Alcea Surrogacy's website, and we would urge you to pick up the phone and or send an email, get in touch, DM, whatever works best for you. And Al and Andrew and the team would love to help you at whatever stage you're at,
Absolutely.
and have all the answers to your very valid questions ready to go. So really
Right.
excited to see what's to come, and to see you all in New York next
Yes,
month.
that's
So
right.
everyone, keep your eyes peeled for what we'll be doing together very soon.
All right. Welcoming you to New York City at Christmas. It's a beautiful time. We got a lot of amazing things. Thank you so much for the time. And I look forward to seeing you. And thanks to everyone for joining today.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.